Hello, everyone. Welcome, parents and families. My name is Katie Billiot, and I am the Communications and Occupancy Management Specialist here in Housing and Residential Life. On behalf of our entire team, I'd like to welcome you to Housing. We're so excited to have your student living on campus with us this semester. I wish we could be having this meeting in person, live from our Village Cafe, but I'm still so happy that you decided to join us here on YouTube Live tonight. This is the very first time we've ever done something like this. Tonight, we have a panel of guests who are going to tell you a little bit about what you can expect for your student this semester living on campus. Obviously, this year looks a little bit different than previous years, so we thought it would be important to talk about the areas here in housing that are experiencing the most change while still offering the same support services for your student. At any time, you can drop your questions into the live chat box. We'll do our best to answer them in real time, but we'll definitely answer them at the very end of this session when we do a Q&A portion. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I would like to welcome a very special guest, our Interim Associate Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Andy Klingelhofer.
Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome to the Stan State family. We thank you for trusting us with your students. This is going to be an unusual year. You know, we finished the year one way last year. We're continuing on. We've gotten a lot better at it. We're hoping very much that we're able to supply your students with the same support that we've been able to do both in housing and as a university. My role is basically as an advocate in the big picture for students in general, but housing is one of my areas that I work with on a special basis. And this year's challenge on campus and in housing is to make sure that we all work together to support our students, both academically and make sure they're successful, and also to keep them healthy. It takes a village, as you may have heard, to be supportive of our students and to keep them healthy. And you are now a part of the village. So if we have to need you, we will call you and ask you for help. But we hope that all of our students will believe in what we ask them to do in terms of their safety precautions. They'll be well educated on how to do it and what to do. And we hope that they have a great, great year with as much of a normal experience as we can provide. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Andy. Next, I would like to introduce the General Manager of Chartwell's Dining Services here on campus, Charles Pereira.
Charles, you're muted.
Hey, Charles, you're still on mute. So sorry.
Thank you for that, Heather. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. So, Charles Pereira here for Chartwells. We are so super excited to be back after this past few months of COVID. We are featuring 4 locations this semester. Usually we have about 11, but we're excited to have Stan's Choice, which is more of a taqueria. That is located by DBH next to, I believe it's the library that's undergoing construction. Right now it's going to be open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. We also have MSR Cafe, which is open from, again, Monday through Friday, 7:30 in the morning until 3 p.m. And that's located at the Mary Stuart Rogers building inside of it. And last but not least, we have the Village Cafe. The Village Cafe is going to have a small micro market, which will feature convenience items that students can take to their rooms. It's going to be every day, daily. We're going to have brunch from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and dinner from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. every day. Okay. If any of the students have any allergies or any diet concerns that they'd wish to address, they're always welcome to reach out to us via email or even call us. In the past, what we've had is students that come up to our supervisors, our cooks, and basically tell them what their diet concern is, and we've always made an effort to accommodate them. But if you all have, if any of the students do have anything particular as far as allergies, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We can be reached via email. We also, which is featured on the Dine On campus page on the university's website. Something that we've done different in this COVID era, basically we've to accommodate students and make sure that all the students are taken care of and safe. We have extra employees on our shifts to make sure that everything is sanitized, disinfected before the shift, during, and after the shift ends. A couple of things that we are going to introduce, actually one of them that we're going to introduce is Boost, which we've had previously only at the MSR Cafe and Naragi Cafe. So we're excited to have that. We should be having that going live in the next few days, or at the latest by next week. So that will actually help reduce the lines going into the cafe and actually speed up the process, and basically you don't have to wait. So it's a very interesting app, and we are looking forward to having that. We have a new concept for our grab and go products called Jack and Olive, a new concept. And basically what that is cold sandwiches, salads, anything that the student wants to just go ahead and grab in. They don't want anything prepared or that is prepared hot. They can go ahead and grab those items, and those are easily available. And that is one of our newest additions. Okay, and I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Charles. Unfortunately, Charles won't be able to join us for the Q&A portion later, since he'll be overseeing the first night in the Village Cafe. So if anyone has any additional questions for him, you can send him an email, which I will go ahead and drop in the chat box. Next, please welcome Housing's Interim Director, Renee Giannini.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everybody. I'm Renee, and this is my 13th move-in and my most memorable so far. It's just memorable because it's so different. The personal connections that start from day one are so much harder in this COVID environment. But all of us in housing are committed to provide a safe and supportive living environment that fosters academic success and personal growth. That's our mission, and our entire team is committed to our mission. And we've all worked hard to focus on this safe environment and adapt how we do everything that we do to support your students' academic success in this environment. Did we do a lot of planning? Yes. We have pages and pages of planning and protocols to establish and maintain the safe environment for our community. But we need your commitment and your students' commitment to help us keep and maintain the safe environment so we can support their academic success and their personal growth. We also need your help in understanding that things may come up this year that we didn't plan for. But as I said, we remain committed to our mission and to the safety of our community. In the end, I think that we'll all have an opportunity to work on our own growth and development this year. I want to thank you for your time and your commitment this year, and I'm going to pass it back to you, Katie.
Thanks, Renee. Next, I would like to welcome Heather Pearson-Vieta, Associate Director for Residential Life.
Thanks, Katie, and good evening, and to everyone that's able to join. As Katie mentioned, I'm Heather, I'm the Associate Director for Residential Life, and I have the opportunity of working with our overall Residential Life program here at STAN. And Residential Life, it's a function within our overall housing department and the services and the experience that we create for students. It consists of a team of professional and student staff that work to facilitate a meaningful living and learning experience for residents that are living in the community. At STAN, our work really focuses on the academic and community engagement of students, as well as their personal growth. And part of this engagement and growth includes community safety and student responsibilities. Because we are still in a shared environment, we are a community, although many of our spaces have significantly reduced populations to support minimizing the spread of COVID. We really depend on each other to be successful. We've been, as a team, as a larger housing team, we've been modifying our processes and programs, as Renee mentioned, to support the guidance and recommended practices that minimize the risk of COVID-19 spread. This has included increased community cleaning, physical distancing, face coverings. If you walked around the community earlier today, you may have seen quite a bit of signage and information around the community and in units, talking a little bit about things that students can be doing while they're living on campus. Much of what we have included into expectations for the year and our approach to the year are directly related to state and federal guidance and recommended practice specific to COVID-19 and the concern around the spread of COVID-19. One of the things that I would ask of family, parents, loved ones working with students that are living with us on campus is to encourage them to monitor their symptoms on a daily basis and to really make efforts to take care of themselves. And the first thing, if a student's not feeling well, encouraging them to set up an appointment with the Student Health Center, because our colleagues in the Student Health Center are available and connecting with students when illness comes up. If that's not the option your student wants to pursue, encouraging them to contact a healthcare professional in general. And in addition to that, encourage them to let us know if they're not feeling well and if they need to isolate. We've got a lot of things that we're able to do to help a student isolate in the community and hopefully minimize any potential disruption to their academic engagement and progress with us while they're living with us on campus. And I think that isolation can be really critical in helping to minimize any the risk of spread of COVID-19 within our community. I also want to acknowledge the importance of our relationship with families, loved ones, and parents of our students. And it's not just specific to COVID, it's just what it means to be part of a residential community. The work that we do, the engagement we try to facilitate, the learning that I hope is part of the residential community for students, it doesn't happen in a single moment or in a single place. We really recognize that home, family, friends, loved ones are significant in the students' ongoing well-being, learning, and growth. We are limited at times in what we're able to share out with a parent or family member about a specific student. I'm always more than happy to talk through our general practices and to hear about any questions, concerns, or successes that you may have to share about your student. We may unfortunately be limited in terms of what I can say directly back about an individual student's situation. Every student has agency when they're living with us. We do what we can, as much as we can, to help support a student. And that's within the context of knowing that they have agency and autonomy as well. So recognizing that we try to really work with students to help them navigate resources and engage on campus and support them in taking advantage of what we have to offer at STAN. So in that regards, it's always helpful to know if there is something that you're concerned about. So I'd encourage you to reach out throughout the year if questions come up, and I especially love to hear about successes as well too. So as we go throughout the year, please positively encourage your student to check out our event calendar on the housing website, because we will have a wealth of activities in the spirit of housing. We will continue to keep that engagement alive and thriving throughout the year, as we recognize that connection within a community is vital to student success and engagement. We also encourage we ask that you encourage your student to reach out to their resident assistant or their peer academic leader throughout the year to get to know their neighbor and encourage them to maybe have that conversation with their roommate if something's coming up or if they got something they need to talk through. So a lot of things that you can help to encourage them to kind of take initiative with their experience when they're living with us on campus. So I'd appreciate any help that you can offer in that area as we work throughout this very interesting and dynamic year. And on that note, there's a lot of specifics that go into what we are able to do and what we facilitate on an ongoing basis with students. And so I'm going to introduce one of our residential life coordinators, Gabby Nunez, who works primarily with our first year students, and let the residential life team talk a little bit more about the specifics of their areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriela Nunez, or Gabby. I am the residential life coordinator in the first year community. And this year I am beginning my 4th year in my role here at Stan State. So my role in housing consists of serving as a live-in professional, and I supervise the resident assistants or the RAs. So when I say live-in professional, that means I live within the community. So I'm able to help and assist any student at really any point of the day in any troubles or questions that they might have. And I share that on-call role with my colleague, Alex. I also assist in helping students through many things such as roommate issues, roommate concerns, feeling like they're not adjusting to campus, making sure they feel comfortable in their new homes. And I also do meet with students for any policy violations or any behavior concerns within the community. So it's really important that your students read our policies so they can be up to date on what is allowed and what is not allowed. But my main goal is to help students have a smooth and safe transition from high school to college. And there is a lot that goes into that transition, from living in a new environment to living in a new town, to living on their own, learning how to cook, how to clean, how to budget independently, to making new friends, to having a new classroom setup, especially since a lot of our classes are going to be online, and honestly just emerging into adulthood. So if your student is having a hard time, not only can they reach out to their RA or their PAL, but they can reach out to me if they ever need somebody to talk to. I really want students to feel like they have a place here at Stan State, and I want them to feel like this is their home. So the best advice that I can give to you for your students is to encourage them to communicate with their roommates, with their neighbors, with their community members, if there are ever any concerns within their apartment or their suites. Now, I want to mention a few tips and advisements when it comes to health standards and safety. The first is frequent hand washing. So I'm sure you noticed, and Heather mentioned, that there are a lot of friendly reminders within the apartments and the suites about hand washing. So we want to encourage students to follow the CDC guidelines when it comes to washing hands, but also making sure that they're feeling okay. So just encourage your students to wash their hands every time they enter through the gate. They have to touch the handle or push the bar. And we have a lot of traffic in and out of the community. So it's important for our students to wash their hands or sanitize their hands as they go in or out. Also, encouraging your student to disinfect their phones, their laptops, their iPads, and their keyboards every once in a while, as we touch those several times a day. And there are a lot of great resources on Google on how to cleanse those items properly. So make sure you encourage your student to do so. The second is wearing a face covering. So it is mandated that residents and visitors wear face coverings within the community. If your student is not able to physically distance themselves from others, even if they're best friends, even if they're roommates, even if they're in a relationship, we are requiring folks to wear a face covering. The third thing I want to mention is limiting travel. So in order to slow the spread, we are asking residents to limit their travel from city to city. While we understand your student might want to come home frequently, encourage them to bond within the community, meet somebody new, attend the plethora of programs that we're going to have. But if your student is going to travel, please encourage them to be safe, practice physical distancing, wash their hands, and wear their face coverings. And when they come back home, make sure they're monitoring their health. And if they're not feeling well, let us know. We definitely want to help them to make sure that they feel better. You can always call the housing office with questions. Your student can call the housing office with questions. Your student can reach out to their RA or their PAL. And we want to make sure our students are happy, they're healthy, and they have a good fall semester. So I look forward to talking with some of you and getting to know your students. So thank you so much, and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Gabby and Heather. Before we move on to our next speaker, we do have a question in the chat. I believe, Heather, you'll be able to answer this. If someone has to isolate or quarantine, how will you support them as far as meals, medical checkups, etc.?
That's a great question. And thank you to the person that reached out and asked. We are following and we're working in compliance with the Stanislaus County orders for both quarantine and isolation. So folks are supposed to quarantine if they may have been exposed to COVID-19, and exposure being considered someone spending, being within 6 feet of someone that's known to have COVID for longer than 15 minutes, whether you're wearing a face covering or not. That's within the guidance, and so that's within the order for quarantining in Stanislaus County. Isolation, we're looking at approximately 14 days that someone would need to be in isolation. We're following essentially a symptom-based pathway and working with our student health center and risk management teams to navigate that and work with the student once they may need to isolate. When it comes to being in an isolation space or being in a quarantine space, what that means is essentially the student will need to really not leave that unit as much as they possibly can. The only really thing that we'd be looking at is if there's an emergency. We want people to prioritize their safety, right? So if there's a fire, yes, please leave that unit. But generally to really restrict any risk of spread by staying in that unit. And then, so for meals, once we learn that a student may need to quarantine or isolate, we have professional staff that are on duty 24 hours a day to be able to support resident assistance in issues that come up within the community, any high-level concerns involving resident issues and behaviors. And so it's Alex and Gabby. One of the lovely functions that they provide for our department is that on-duty support. Renee and myself also do some support with them as well too. And sometimes occasionally it might even be me stepping in from that RLC on duty function. But essentially, Gabby and Alex or myself will be working with the student to establish a game plan for their quarantine and isolation period. And so this would include routine meal delivery, both at brunch, so around 10:30 in the morning, and again at 5:30, and working with the student to collect kind of what they want to order and what they would want to eat from the Village Cafe. We're not doing a set menu. We're gonna, customize it based off of if a student wants oatmeal one day and they think they might want eggs. We don't want them feeling like they have to have the same thing every day. So we're gonna work with them to customize that as they need to. And so we'll collect that information as part of the quarantine and isolation process, and then facilitate meal drop-off twice per day, Monday through Sunday, for every day the students needing meals. We can also work with the student to coordinate if they want to do a grocery delivery. We can coordinate a time in which groceries can be dropped off and safely brought to the unit that they're quarantining in or isolating in. Same process for mail. If there's any critical packages the student's expecting, we'll be able to facilitate a drop-off for them. If they garbage will be picked up 3 times a week. We have a designated trash can that will be in the units to help facilitate that process, and our custodial team will be doing those routine pickups for the students that may need to be in quarantine or isolation. So I mentioned laundry. oh yeah, when students are placed, when they need to be in a quarantine unit or they need to isolate in their unit, we also have kits that we'll be dropping off of the units that include supplies based off whether or not they have to relocate or not, depending on their situation and if they have a roommate or not, or if they are an impacted roommate. We have kits to help make that process go a little bit more smoothly. So that make extra pan, dishes, linens, and some snacks as well. Some things to make that process a little bit more comfortable. Our residential life team will be reaching out every few days to check in and see how things are going, and kind of providing that follow-up care. Seeing if the student needs connection to resources or referrals within the campus or in the community. The biggest thing that I would stress, though, is if a student is feeling any emergency symptoms related to COVID-19, that they contact for emergency medical care. So that may be reaching out immediately to their doctor, depending on the provider, or 911, and medical professionals can respond to the community. I'm going to pause for a moment, see if there's any other questions, or folks from the residential life team have anything else they'd like to add.
That's the only question in the box, unless anyone has anything to add. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next speaker. And then if any other questions pop into the box, I'll just direct them to who they need to be directed to. So next, please welcome Alex Ost, Residential Life Coordinator.
Thank you, Katie, and hello and welcome everybody. My name is Alex. I am a residential life coordinator for upper class and transfer students. So Gabby already shared some of the aspects of her role. Gabby and I work very closely together to assist residents and help with housing needs. And so our role is very similar. We both live and work on the campus. We work closely with the resident assistants that are here to provide support for all of the residents throughout the community. We meet with students semi-regularly to help with issues that they might be having, whether it's roommate issues or homesickness, or just adjusting to living away from home for the first time and living on their own, and helping them transition to the college life. We also serve on call for emergencies, as Heather had shared. So we are available for emergencies that come up on campus and addressing those kinds of issues. So I don't want to repeat too much of what Gabby kind of already shared about the things that we do. And although we work with different populations, we do have a lot of similar things that happen and that we work with. I do also just want to reiterate some of the things that she mentioned about some of the changes that we've made to keep our community safe, and how we've gone about implementing those changes. So the importance of washing your hands and practicing social distancing, wearing your face covering, just monitoring your symptoms and your own health and safety, and taking care of yourself. And just to not be afraid to reach out if they are concerned or if they have questions, and if they need any help. I also want to reiterate the importance of communication, as Gabby mentioned, and how that plays a role with roommates and their relationships. And so really encourage your students to communicate openly with each other, with their friends, with their roommates, with their RA, and ask for help if they're feeling challenged with some of the issues of living away from home for the first time, living with new people and things like that. And the importance of all of the safety guidelines that we've implemented for the community, and just that we all play a part. Andy, in his when he was speaking, he had said that it takes a village, right? Well, so everyone plays a part in our community in keeping it safe. So we hope that all of the residents living here will take that seriously and play a role in keeping our community safe and helping all of the residents live here. I also, while I've got the time, I want to share a couple of other updates about some other areas of the community. So I want to share a little bit about our laundry rooms, and just let people know that we have multiple throughout the community. So if your students have any questions and they're kind of like, what do I do? We have a laundry room that's in the community center, and that laundry room is available when it's open, and not when it's open, when the community center is open. So during community center hours, and it's open till 11 p.m. each day. So residents in Village 1 and 2 primarily will be the closest to that one, and they can use that one during the hours that it's open. There are also laundry rooms available in Village 3. There's one on each floor in Village 3, and those are available 24 hours a day. So students can access those 24 hours a day if they need to. We do have some new restrictions about using the laundry rooms just for safety reasons for COVID-19. We're asking that no more than 2 people will be in the laundry room at a time, and that residents are abiding by all of our public safety guidelines about wearing face coverings and social distancing while they're in the room, washing their hands and things like that. We're also asking residents not to gather and wait in the laundry room while their laundry is running. I know sometimes people like to wait because they don't want to leave their laundry unattended. But we would prefer that they're not hanging out and staying in that space when other people might need to use it. So we just want people to start their laundry, go back to their room, set a timer on their phone, and then come back and pick it up when it's done. I also want to mention briefly just some updates about our guest policies because we've had some changes to our guest policies, and I want to make sure that everyone's aware of those. So we're following guidance from the Stanislaus County and from the governor's office, and so we've had to make some changes to those guest policies for those reasons. Overnight guests at this time are not permitted, and so we're asking if residents do have guests that they ask their guests to leave by when quiet hour starts. We also want to mention too that non-resident guests, so guests that are from outside of the housing community, aren't permitted inside the residential units at this time. So they're still welcome to visit our community, and they can gather in outdoor seating areas of the community. But as part of our safety precautions, we're asking that they not go into the resident units. And while guests are here, we're also asking them to abide by these same health and safety requirements. So face coverings and social distancing, covering your coughs and sneezes, washing your hands frequently. And all of these things are just changes that we've made to help keep our community more safe. And so I guess the last bit of wisdom that I would share is just when talking with your students, if they're telling you about difficulties that they're having here, please encourage them to talk with their RA. Their RAs are great resources. They're there to help the residents. They've been through weeks of training to prepare them for all the challenges that might come up throughout the year. And they're a great resource. And then if the RA might have some difficulty helping resolve that problem, that's where Gabby and I can step in, and we can help facilitate and help the students solve the problems that they're working on. So please just encourage them to communicate with us and reach out to us if they need anything at all. Thank you. Welcome to your students, and welcome to the parents and families that were here today, or if you're coming over the next few days. We can't wait to see you, and I will pass it back to Katie.
Thanks, Alex. Just in case we have any new viewers tuning in, I just want to remind you that you can drop any questions into the live chat box, and we'll try to address them right away, or we'll address them at the very end during our Q&A portion. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Jessica Betancourt-Wojciechowski, Assistant Director for Residential Education.
Thank you, Katie, for the introduction. As Katie said, my name is Jessica, and I'm the Assistant Director for Residential Education. Essentially, what I am responsible for is all of the programs and services that we have in residence to support your student academically. It's a big transition going from high school to college level coursework any given year. This year, it's going to be particularly difficult as you're transitioning your student into a fully online or close to online academic environment at a collegiate level. So we have a number of different programs and services that we want to make sure that you're familiar with and that you encourage your resident and student to use. The first one you've heard mentioned already is our peer academic leaders. Those are upper division students that are living in residence. They are across all 3 villages, and every student living in residence has one of those peer academic leaders assigned to support them. And what that support looks like is a number of different things. First, they will be reaching out each month with different pieces of information that residents should know. So they will have community check-ins where they will be disseminating information to all of our students. They also will be doing one-on-one coaching with each of our residents. So they will be contacting your student individually to offer support. And that can be very much tailored to what your student is looking for in terms of support. That can be anything from GPA improvement to setting up your semester, making sure that you're not missing any assignments or deadlines, improving test taking skills, learning the different platforms that instructors are using. There's a few different platforms that instructors might be using to facilitate online coursework. So learning those can be a bit challenging. Also, just using our online, our email system, our student portals to register for classes, all of it can feel a bit overwhelming. So please, if your student is expressing any difficulty with navigating the institution, different processes, please encourage them to reach out to a peer academic leader. They're a great first stop in terms of learning who might be best to help them. Also, we have some living learning communities as options for support for residents. I encourage you to look over those with your student. If you haven't yet, we still do have a few spots left in some of the courses. So our living learning communities are communities where students are living together on a floor, but then they are also taking courses together. So quickly, we have Elevate, which is really geared towards our first generation college students who are looking for a high level of support. And then we also have our Elevate second year community for those that want to continue to a second year with Elevate. We have an honors living learning community for those students living with us that are also part of the honors program. And then in that community, there's also a scholars community. So if your student is in maybe one of those STEM fields where they might be studying more than sort of average, that might be an option for them as well. And then we have our social justice living learning community. And that is going to be a newer community for us. It is linked to an ethnic studies, introduction to ethnic studies course. We're excited about having that as part of our offering for living learning communities. So if your student is particularly interested in some of the social movements going on, that might be a great community to check out as well. Let's see, we also have professional advising staff. So that will be supported by me for this semester, although typically we do have a third live-on professional that also provides that professional level staff support. But residents are welcome to reach out to me and I'm happy to support them in a professional advising capacity as well. Again, reach out to those peer academic leaders if your student is having any concerns or difficulty. We are here to support them. One thing that I find can be hard transitioning your student to a college environment is if you are used to being very involved with their assignments and deadlines and even checking their grades. Many schools now have, high schools now have online portals where you can see their grades sort of live and their progress through activities. That can be a hard transition when your student, you no longer have access to that information. But rest assured that we at the institution do have access to that information. So part of my role is sort of monitoring the academic wellness of all of our residents, and I'm able to see their GPAs, and we do reach out to residents who have a low GPA, and we offer ways to support them and help them. So know that we are looking out for them and we do want them to succeed academically as much as socially. So again, welcome. Thank you to those that are joining us this evening. I look forward to meeting our residents as they come to live with us and hopefully in the future years as well, once we move past sort of this virtual space. So thank you again, and I will pass it back to Katie.
Thanks, Jess. Next, please welcome Liliana Jimenez, our student account specialist.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. My name is Liliana Jimenez, and I'm the student account specialist here at Housing and Residential Life. In my role, I help students navigate university finances. So this ranges from submitting a payment, understanding university charges, reviewing financial aid and its impact towards housing payments, amongst other items. So if your student ever has any housing account related inquiries, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Due to these unprecedented events this year, many of our support services have transitioned to a virtual format. So this includes what would have typically been a one-on-one financial advising session. So now it is in a virtual format. So to schedule an appointment, your student would need to visit the housing webpage, and under the current residence tab, there is now an appointments link. This link will redirect your student to the account scheduling system, and there is a range of time slots that whichever best fits the time for your student that they can schedule an appointment. I want to wish you all the best as I wish you all the best as we're navigating these times. Should your students have any question, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you. Back to you, Katie.
Thanks, Lily. And thanks to all of our panelists for all of that great information today. I'm going to give a few moments to our viewers if they want to go ahead and drop any questions that they might have for any of our panelists today into the live chat box. It looks like we've gone through all the questions so far. So again, if you have any questions, I definitely invite you to go ahead and drop it in that live chat box. We'll just give it a few minutes just in case. And maybe I don't know if any of our panelists can think of anything that maybe wasn't talked about today, or if they would just like to add anything onto anything.
I want to add in, as folks are generating, if there's any questions that are coming up, in terms of the activities and what folks can expect to experience, we are, for any events or anything that we organize within the community intentionally will be with the guidance in mind. So we talk about face coverings, physical distancing, trying to be contactless. We've got a lot of fun things lined up this week for Welcome Week. We are shifting. We had some activities that were designed to be outdoors. We're going to try and shift those indoors or postpone because of the shift, the changes and concerns around air quality in the area, knowing that a lot of California is struggling with fires at the moment. But we will still be maintaining a robust kind of agenda and schedule for the week. I'm really looking forward to the crafting with counseling. That'll be tomorrow. Students can come to the office and pick up, like, seriously, the cutest little canvas. I didn't realize that they came like in these adorable sizes, but they could come and pick up a canvas, and then they get a chat with a couple of our really great counseling staff members here on our campus and go through an activity. It's done virtually, but there's still interactive components. There's an item that they can take away, and they still get to meet with and interact with other students and staff from our campus. We have a lot of those kinds of activities lined up throughout the week. We will still be able to offer some experiences that encourage folks to be outside. You know, that engagement and interaction can be both virtual and safely done in monitored kind of outdoor capacities, knowing how COVID is transmitted, right? We should be cautious about our space towards other folks. And we know that being outside also helps to dilute the spread of droplets. And so we want to encourage people to, when we're not dealing with air quality issues, to get out, explore our campus, to wave to their neighbor, to still be able to interact with one another and create community in a wide range of dynamic ways. I feel like it's redundant, but in a wide range of ways with one another. What I will say with resident assistants and peer academic leaders, Jess and Gabby and Alex alluded to this, they're going to be reaching out quite intentionally to your students throughout the entire year. And so that may be in community meetings, kind of in a format like this, where they're delivering some information and facilitating some activities. It could be one-on-one conversations where they set up some time to have a, more in-depth, like, how's it going? How are you doing? And checking in on things that are coming up appropriate to the time of the year, right? So we know there are certain trends. February tends to be a time where a lot of roommate issues come up, right? So we checking in on roommates. We know the advising cycles, right? So part of the calendar will be including those intentional conversations into those check-ins. So student can expect a lot of different ways for us to be able to interact with them when it comes to this upcoming academic year.
Thanks, Heather. Well, it looks like we don't have any questions in our chat box. So again, on behalf of our entire staff, I just want to say welcome to housing. You can really rest assured that your students will be safe and well supported this semester while they live on campus. And if at any time you or your student have any questions, you can call our front office at 209-667-3675, or you can send us an email, housing@csustan.edu. A written transcription of this video will be available within the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll include a link in the video description box as soon as it's posted. And it will also be posted to the parents and families section on our website. If you haven't checked out that section, I definitely recommend doing so. There you'll be able to find everything you heard today, as well as contact information for each of today's panelists. Thank you again so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and happy move-in if your students haven't already moved in, or if they did move today. Thank you so much. Go Warriors!